Hey everybody, this is Arthur Brown. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Guess what I've been working on, guys? Yes, that's right. I'm going to start my own podcast, and it's going to be real, authentic, genuine, and I'm going to have quite a few different type of personalities, anywhere from a real estate agent to attorney, professional athlete, retired athlete, school teacher, you name it. If you want to reach out to me to see if you possibly get on the podcast, hit me up. Let's do this. I want to build generational wealth. And my podcast name, by the way, is called Legacy Building. That's right, Legacy Building. Thank you, guys. Welcome back, everybody. This is Arthur Brown, podcast Legacy Building. Today, I have an incredible guest, and you might want to ask, why do I have my phone? I'm going to tell you why. It's because this guy is probably the most important guest I'm going to have. We're going to dive into so many things. He's laughing over here, but he don't know what's ahead of him. He doesn't even know. He don't even have a clue, guys. But Mr. Vaden, welcome, brother.
Thank you, man.
We've been trying to put this together. I had to get the permission from his wife, and she signed off, what, like 3 in the morning?
Oh, yeah.
Signed off, finally got this approved.
Finally.
So, Mr. Wayne, let me guys tell you a little bit about Mr. Vaden. I probably know Wayne close to 20 years. Wayne is a Denverite. So, in other words, Wayne was born and raised in Denver. Wayne has so many connections. Mayors, senators, congressmen, professional athletes, and better yet, his first cousin's Mr. Robert Smith. I won't even let you guys know who Robert Smith is. If you don't know, that means you don't live in the U.S. He is the richest African American in the United States. But that's not about Robert. It's about Mr. Wayne Vaden today. Wayne, how can I put this best? Wayne is not just an attorney. He personally trained both of my young ladies in track and field. He's probably one of the best hurdle coaches in the United States when it comes to high school kids.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Wayne has a history himself in track and field. He was a top athletic individual at the University of UTEP. He held many records in the state of Colorado when he graduated from high school. We won't say the year. We won't even go there because it was recent. Just want to let you know, it was recent. But
couple years ago.
Yeah, a couple years. And he's bashful. He's very bashful. But I could go on and on with the accolades, but I just want to let you guys know this is my guy. So without further ado, let's jump right into it, Mr. Wayne. My question to you, Mr. Vaden, is why did you get into law?
Why did I get into law? That's a great story.
Mm-hmm. Well, we got time,
you're
brother.
Gonna
Let's
love
talk about
this. My mother has 7 siblings. Wow. And when my great aunt passed away, my great aunt lived across the alley. We lived on 27th and Still, and my great aunt lived on 27th and St. Paul. When my Auntie Bert passed away, and she willed everything to my aunts and uncles and mom, and I must have been a little guy, 10th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this process that they went through called probate.
Oh, we're gonna dive into that too.
And they sold my Auntie Bert's house. They get, 40 grand back then.
Mm-hmm.
It was not, a whole bunch of money. And I looked at what the attorney made. And the attorney made something like 10, 15 grand, which was astronomical to me. And each of the 7 siblings got, $2,500. And the thing that the family did was we went out to a big dinner. And right after that, I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me.
Wow.
And so back then, everybody had like one go-to attorney.
Mm-hmm.
I forget this guy.
Kind of like you now.
No. I hate to say it, but there were a lot of racial implications.
Mm-hmm.
You have these black families saying, oh, it's Mr. Zuckerberg. Everybody went to Mr. Zuckerberg.
Mm-hmm.
He was like the attorney that black folks went to.
Got it.
And I'm like, why? Why are we doing this? Because this just doesn't make any sense to me. And so ever since that time, I was really interested in the law and how our community worked and how legacy worked and how wealth preservation worked. And how could I impact not only my family, but my community in a much better way, because it just seemed like it wasn't fair.
So you're telling me at an early age, you realized that you wanted to be an attorney?
I did.
Wow.
I did.
Wow. So before we jump into that, kind of tell us a little bit about growing up in Denver, how it was in your neighborhood, what attracted you to sports, how did sports help you become who you are today?
Our neighborhood was an anomaly. When I look at other people's neighborhoods, there were, I'm gonna say, about 20 guys same age as me, all in the same neighborhood.
Wow.
And about 20 girls all in the same neighborhood. And our culture, the culture we created, and this included like Robert and Dr. Nate Howard, and it was this culture of education. And then you added on top of that busing. So we started out at Columbine Elementary School, and then soon they bussed us out to far south Denver, Home Elementary School. And so you have this group of athletic, smart, young black men and women that just were in this group, and they shipped us off to these other schools, and we literally just took over.
And really quick, not to cut you off, Wayne, can you go more in detail? Because I think we have a young group here too. Tell them a little bit about busing.
Busing happened back in my day after a discrimination lawsuit. It was basically the integration of the schools in Denver. Now, my older cousins went through the bad situation where it was integration at George Washington High School, where they actually had riots.
Got it.
In our situation, the busing was pretty peaceful.
Okay.
We went out to Home Elementary School, which was in South Denver, and the kids from South Denver were bused to Columbine. Wow. So it was more of a mix-up, but that was powerful because we went to Home first, and then they bused us to Bromwell. Again, a whole new set of kids. So we went from South Denver to Cherry Creek.
Oh, did you?
Yes, we did. Right in the middle of Cherry Creek. The power in that was, and I don't think they realized it, was that my crew, our community, they empowered us to think that we owned the whole city.
Love it.
Because we knew people far south, we know people who went to TJ eventually, Cherry Creek eventually, anywhere in the city, we could put our hands on people we knew. And then when we went to Cherry Creek, of course, we got that wealthier part of the city. And then you end up at East, and now you got people from Hilltop, you got people from, and everybody just sort of, and it was amazing. That experience was amazing to me, and a lot of people will come up to me. Matter of fact, one of my friends from elementary school came up to me, and her mom was really involved in that whole busing thing. And she was a kid from Bromwell, grew up in Cherry Creek. And she said, my mom really feels guilty about the whole busing experiment. What do you think about that, Wayne? And when I told her that, she got the biggest smile on her face because she's like, I can't wait to tell my mom that.
So you already knew. And by the way, guys, Denver East is probably one, if not the oldest school.
I think Manuel's older.
Okay.
I think Manuel's a little older.
Yeah, in the Denver metro area.
Yeah.
Fast forward, as you're in high school, you're heading into college. I know you, like I said, guys, he was a stud. He still has video when he was running. He would post it every now and then. And if you see that video, you know he was a stud.
But let me go back to the community, because one of the things that I think your audience needs to know is that in my community, my cousin Robert's, both of his parents were educators. So his mom ended up being the principal at George Washington. His father, my uncle, was the principal at Montclair Elementary School, Barrett Elementary School. And then when you came to our neighborhood, Mr. Broadnax was a principal. Mr. Davis was a principal. So all of us had this education. Dr. Howard's mom was an educator. So when you came into our community, it was more focused on academics. But then you had all these guys, and all we did was play kickball, soccer, ran, football, basketball, just a ton of sports. So that's how I became a runner.
Okay, no, I love that fact, because I think for me, education is a lot. And it's sad to a certain degree this day and age that's not pushed. It's like the opposite. It's athletics first and then academics.
And I'm not sure if that's true. You know, the kids that I see, like your daughters.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. I will say that. And I'm not saying I'm a needle in the haystack by any means. But I guess I'm getting caught up in social media.
I think that, you know, when we look at some of the things that surround us, we do get caught up in social media. And I think one of the reasons why you chose our track team was that our kids are a little different.
Absolutely.
You know, to be on our track team, you had to be focused on education. And so when you have
family,
you know, Cam and Ken doing the things they were doing, along with, you know, you got Maya at Duke and Kasia at Yale, and we can go on
Absolutely.
and on and on
Yep.
and compete and be a good athlete and not a good student. These kids are incredible students.
Absolutely.
So I like to correct that, because when people say that's not really the focus, it's like, oh no, that's not true. Because all the kids I have today
not you
are the same way. You know, I just demand a different quality and expectation out of our kids.
Love it.
That's really what we have to do.
Great.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you correcting me.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't on that area, that side of it, but I do see it. So thank you, because that's what my family was built around.
Even my
Academics.
daughters.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, my
Absolutely.
kids. Oh heck yeah. that's how it goes.
So when you move forward, and we'll just jump in really quick into the area of when you went to college and you decided that you wanted to compete in track and field. How did that prepare you not only for life, but the journey that you went into, which was law?
You know, track and field is an interesting sport because it's an individual sport. And I think I excelled at it because I could do things outside of the formal parameters. You know, basketball, the coach is it's gonna be there. The teammates are gonna be there. Track and field, if you wanna excel and go beyond what everybody else is doing, that's cool to do. You can go outside right now and run. And practice, and that's what I did. You know, I lived across the street from the Park Hill City Park golf course, and so that was my playground. Getting up in the morning and running around the park, the park, the golf course in the park, and then doing sprints up and down the golf course hill. That's what I did, and then lifting weights and doing stuff on your own. You could be as good as you want.
Yes, sir.
And that's why I love track and field, and that's transferable into the classroom. One of the things I used to do was, you're not only competing on the track, but you're competing in the classroom. And you can ask my friends. I sat in front of the classroom. Any classroom, I'm sitting in the front row, looking the teacher in the eye and saying, "Teach me today." That was the type of student I was, because I knew where I wanted to go and how I wanted to do it. And I was excited to learn. You know, to spend time in a classroom and just go to sleep, that was a waste of my time. And I ain't wasting my time with anything. So that's how it was transferable to me.
One thing I love about Wayne, guys, and my kids, and Wayne would tell you this, there was multiple track clubs at that time when my kids were younger. And they actually ran another track club before they connected with Wayne. The one thing that stood out for me with Mr. Vaden was that I brought it up, and maybe I said it a little bit low, and I said family. He preaches family, and that's huge for us. You know, Wayne knew my wife, who, you know, since passed away. It'll be 4 years next month that she lost her life to cancer. But Wayne has been instrumental in my girls, and to this day he still stays in contact with them, and they still call Mr. Wayne Vaden coach. So I love that. Wayne keeps track of the kids that he's had for like the last 15 years or so. Wayne, as you finished up college, you got your law degree, you decided to make Denver your home, to come back and have an impact on your community. And you brought something up earlier. You talked about legacy, which for me is huge. When we go into, what was the, number one, what type of attorney? What do you practice in terms of your attorney?
Right now I have a mix. And when I say, number one, let me make sure everybody understands what I do. I'm an attorney, and that's probably my bread and butter. But I'm also an entrepreneur. I have a food service company.
Yes, you do.
I have a real estate company. I have a development company. And I'm a track coach.
Yep.
So if I divided it up, it would be my family, the things I do at work, and then I call track my ministry.
Got it.
Track is my ministry. Your kids become part of my ministry. And my goal is to teach character, faith, and athletic development. So that's how I divide up my life.
Okay.
My practice right now, I've been practicing law for 33 years.
Okay.
Long time.
Yes, sir.
I've done corporate, I've done employee, I've done workers' comp, I've done a gamut of things. But now I'm sort of focused on real estate, probate, estate planning. And usually because real estate falls right into that estate planning and probate, it's part and parcel of the same thing. That's really where we're focused. I do a little bit of civil litigation. I do corporate law. I do nonprofit law because of our community organizations, trying to make sure they're stabilized. Number one, the foundation is created and that they're stabilized and operating properly. A lot of small business law.
Got it. Because we know we're about to get into meat potatoes now, brother. I'm just telling you, we're about to get into meat potatoes. All the other stuff is good, but no, we're about to get into meat potatoes. And what I mean by that, let's start off, Wayne. Let's say hypothetically, for me, why is it so important? And we're going to get into trust and revocable, all that stuff. But what have you seen in let's just say Brown community? Why don't we have wills?
We don't have wills because of knowledge. Lack of knowledge will really do us in. All right. So just a little bit of knowledge. The other thing that we traditionally have not had is the asset itself.
What do you mean by that?
If you think of how our community, and I'm thinking of Northeast Denver, my parents and their parents before them, I think my grandmother may have bought the house that my mom still lives in for $15,000.
Wow.
All right. Maybe when my mom bought it, the value of that house went up to about $100,000, right? And if you start thinking about estate planning at that level, you're like, oh yeah, well maybe somebody would go to probate. Back then, probate probably cost a couple of $100.
And stop you right there. What is probate? Let everybody know. I want to get this. What is probate?
Let me explain that.
Okay.
Because if you don't have an automatic transfer of your asset to the next generation, and when I say an automatic transfer, that would be a transfer that occurs upon death. If your estate is not set up to transfer or convey your assets automatically, and by state law, real estate is definitely that asset that's going to be of value. If your real estate does not transfer automatically upon death to somebody, you've got to go through a legal proceeding called probate. Probate's going to be at the local probate court, which is going to be the district court. In Denver, they have their own little separate probate court, but in Arapahoe County, you have to go to Arapahoe County District Court. You petition for the court so that you can transfer that real estate or any assets exceeding $80,000.
Okay.
All right. If it's only assets less than, you have 70 grand in the bank, you can do what they call a small estate affidavit. I tell you that the automatic transfer piece because a lot of people confuse a will with that automatic transfer piece. So an automatic transfer would occur with a beneficiary's deed or a quitclaim deed. So you could do a beneficiary deed on your house. That beneficiary deed will be recorded at the local clerk and recorder's office, and it says, upon my death, my house automatically transfers to my kids. Okay. Now you've done probate avoidance. Now your kids don't have to go to probate to transfer that house.
Is that almost more important than actually having a will to a certain degree?
Oh yes, you don't want a will. And I'll tell you why. The other way people do it, the poor way people do an automatic conveyance, is they put their kids in joint tenancy in a quitclaim deed. So it'd be like Arthur Brown and my kids own this property in joint tenancy with rights of survival. So when you die, it automatically transfers to your kids. All right, but some of our families will do that, and some of those kids have bad intentions.
And I know you got stories, Wayne.
So you don't want your kids on there if they have taxes due, they're gonna put a lien on your house, somebody gonna come after them. So a lot of our families would do that joint tenancy piece, which is problematic. The other thing that becomes problematic is author passes away, his kids are on the house, who controls it now? Now you got 3 kids on this house. The horror story is I've seen some of these siblings start fighting. One moves into the house, they move their whole family into the house, and they're like, this is my house.
Wow. Did you guys hear that? Did you hear that? Let me repeat this. I pass away, I have all 3 of my kids on title. Basically, one of the 3 decide to move their whole family into the house. The other 2 are outside looking and like, whoa, wait, what's up? You just moved your family in. All of a sudden, no, we want to sell the house. We want half. Who's making the mortgage payment? Oh, Wayne, it gets crazy. I'm just talking on the mortgage side. I can only imagine on the lawyer side of it. Wow.
So if you're gonna do a joint tenancy, or if you're gonna do anything, that's one of the things I tell my client, and you have multiple children on there, always give somebody the right to control it. Who is the final decision maker? If you do that, then you avoid litigation. If you don't do that, then they're gonna fight, and you're gonna have to go to court eventually, spending tens of thousands of dollars to do a partition action to divide up the house and eventually sell it.
Got it.
Yeah.
So interesting you said I don't think you actually said it this way, but you said a will is
nothing. And then the other way we can automatically convey it, and that's where you're trying to get to, is to create a family trust.
Yes, sir.
And within that family trust, we're gonna put instructions on who owns what, when, how it transfers, how it can be sold, and who's the person, the final decision-making authority. But that didn't answer your original question. Your original question was, why don't we have wills? All right. I think we don't have traditional estate planning because we didn't have the asset. And my mom's house was worth $100 grand. Now, the whole neighborhood is worth $600,000
minimum.
Now, you have a community with substantial assets. I have people coming into my office where grandma bought 4 or 5 duplexes, and they don't have anything. No estate planning, no will, no. And grandma left them with $3 million worth of property, right? That she bought for 40 grand back in the 80s, during the HUD days. And so that's the issue, is that lack of knowledge. And we sort of stumbled upon this wealth. It's really important that we get to our community and say, you guys are all millionaires now.
And Wayne, you bring something up very important, and I bring this up all the time, is the reason why us as African Americans, the reason why we're lagging behind basically every other nationality is because of the fact that we're not educated when it comes to real estate. And here's the crazy part. We actually own property. We've owned property for years. The problem is when a grandmother, a mother, a husband pass away and they leave the property to the kids, sometimes the kids will actually take the money out, sell it, and go back to renting again. They went out and bought a BMW, a nice motorcycle, went traveling all over the world, and then they have nothing to show for it. They're not able to pass it down to the next generation. Right?
Exactly.
And that's the part that's scary. That's the part we can't get across. And for me, I'm still trying to figure out that area to be able to educate not only our people, just educate people in general behind it.
People in general. People who do not traditionally have wealth. Most wealthy people who are property owners, they know this stuff. They were raised with this stuff. Their grandparents, parents, great-grandparents told them, don't sell this. Keep it in the family. And that's the only education that we need.
And protecting your assets, and then we're gonna dive into, So when we talk about a trust, from my understanding, a trust is basically one of the main reasons why people go with the trust is to protect their assets.
Well, let me talk about a will, because I don't want to skip over a will. A will is important, But a will is only important for personal property. Your clothes, your hat, your watch. Who gets that? Who gets to come into my house and get my mink coat? Okay? Personal property. When it comes to any real property or accumulated cash over, 100, 200 grand, actually it's over 75 grand, then you need to do some real estate planning. You don't want that to go into the probate court. You want to make some decisions in that will. The will we do is called a pour over will. My real estate, the cash in my accounts go to my trust. All right? Personal property, all this other junk that is mine, my jacket and stuff, to be divided amongst my kids, with one kid making the decision on how it's divided up. All right? And then you can leave an inventory. Most guys have gun collections. My guns go to my son. The wife usually says, my diamond ring, my wedding ring goes to my eldest daughter. So you can do all of that stuff. It's simple, but do not rely upon a will to avoid probate. It's just going to give directions for an attorney on what to do when we get to probate.
Got it.
So you don't want to will your house to somebody. No. Do a beneficiary deed or put it in trust.
So give me an example. I need to get this. I want a story so the listeners can understand the reason why you say a will is probably not one of the best things to do as opposed to, say, a trust.
I'll tell you probably the worst wills you can do. And they come across my desk all the time. It is a will, and I'll keep using you.
Okay. No, please. Please do.
Arthur Brown creates a will, and it says that my house is going to go to my kids. Oh no, I'm going to make it even worse. These are the worst. My house is going to go into trust, and it's going to then go to my kids. All right? So in doing that, there's two levels. These are the worst wills, because the attorney will send you out of their office with a will that says, number one, it's going to go to my kid, but number two, it has to be put in trust first. So they don't create the trust.
No.
So you die, it's probated. The probate court judge says, all right, Arthur Brown's kids, create the trust first, put the house in the trust, and then you can sell it.
Yeah, but when you do that, when you put it in the trust, now it's protected. Now, do the other two siblings decide to, like, okay, we're in agreement here or what?
Oh, you've created all kinds of problems.
Exactly.
Now, number one, to create the trust is going to cost you about $3,000 to $5,000. To probate, it's going to cost you about $3,000 to $5,000.
And they don't have the money because they're looking at hopefully selling the house.
Right.
Or the mom and dad left them money to deal with it. So you're right.
Yeah. So it just creates a lot of litigation. There are wills. I'll tell you an example of one that came in just yesterday. A lady came in and she said, I don't need anything but a trust. I already got a will. I got power of attorney. I got medical power of attorney. And luckily we said, let me see these documents. All right. She had one heir. And she's like, I only got one heir. Everything's going to them. Okay, let me see your will. You're reading the will. It said all of your real property and cash will go to your siblings. The remainder to your son. And we were like, well, do you know what this means? And she was like, no, I told them to give it all to my son.
You can't do that because it's right there.
All of your stuff, your house that you want to go to, it's going to be divided amongst your brothers and sisters. And we're like, tear that up right now. So I tell you that because it's really important for our community, because they will go to low budget attorneys. people who are not sophisticated in
I'm glad you said that,
estate
Wayne.
planning, they will go to an online and do it themselves. They will do quick claim deeds themselves. They will try to do beneficiary deeds themselves and end up in a whole bunch of trouble later on.
So
And then you have the family saying, that's not what mama told me was supposed to happen. It's in writing, it's signed and notarized.
How often, it's interesting you bring that up. So how often do you run across a situation where you say you have a husband and wife, right? Wife stays at home, husband is the breadwinner. They have 2 beautiful kids. Husband doesn't have any life insurance.
Oh, life insurance is.
And let me finish.
Yeah.
Husband passes away.
Yeah.
Husband passes away, don't have any life insurance. They have a house. The house is in the husband's name.
Wow.
But it's not in the wife's name.
Wow.
Wife feels like, oh, okay, I'm married to him, so when he passes away, I get the house. And knowing that the husband's house that he has, it was passed down to from his dad and gave it to him, but the husband still has siblings, the husband still has his parents alive, but the wife is, oh, no, I get the house because he was my husband. How does that work, Mr. Vaden?
Let me throw in another one. Give the husband another kid. Give the wife a stepchild. All right? So the wife has an elective share.
I just want to hear you tell these. I just want to hear you. I want to hear you because I know the answer. Keep on going.
Husband doesn't have any insurance. Wife's entitled to the house. She has an elective share. Stepchild is entitled to a percentage of the husband's estate. Wife's not on the house, but she's going to be first in line. All right. She's going to have to file probate. She's going to be the personal representative, but now she's got to deal with stepson. Stepson,
parents, siblings, anybody. Is that right or wrong?
They won't have a claim.
Okay, they won't have a claim.
No, if you go to the laws of intestate succession, if you have a spouse, she's going to be first.
Okay.
All right. Now, I want to throw in a different scenario, one we're dealing with now. Don't make her a spouse. Make her common law. She been living with this dude for 10 years. They live together. They have a kid together, but there's a stepchild out there. Mom's living, siblings living. So when we file for probate, all of them come in because she has to prove common law. Common law isn't automatic. She's got to prove she's the spouse. That's when your scenario comes in.
Yeah, no, you're right. Common. Yes, no, absolutely. And if you guys don't understand that, it basically means that you're shacking up. That's old school term, right?
Right.
Shacking up. That you're not married, but you're common law. Girlfriend has lived with you 5, 10 years, boyfriend, vice versa. They have a legal claim to that. So very, very interesting.
We have one of those going on now. Yeah.
You brought something up at an early part when you say you were young. You saw your great aunt leave your mom the house and things of that nature, and you saw what that attorney made. This day and age, and I know money didn't drive you, that situation probably, if anything, like you said, it made you think like, this doesn't seem right. With the attorneys that are out here now, and you brought up a very good point, as far as being with somebody as yourself, who's not only knowledgeable in one area, but multiple areas, what's the one thing that you would recommend for a client not to do when you're dealing with an attorney that maybe is not as expertise as you?
Well, let's be objective. Most attorneys are going to charge between $250 and $500 an hour. I think our firm is right around $300, $350. Probate should probably take less than 10 hours. If there's objections made by the family, maybe 20. All right. So you're talking $3,000 to $6,000 is reasonable. If you have an attorney who's saying, "I'll handle that for $15,000," that's just not. It's not going to happen.
And how long the probate? It could go from what to what?
Probate takes the longest part is the notices. So you got to send out notice publication to all of the interested parties, and that should run for about 4 months. So probate should be between 6 to 8 months long.
Okay.
All right. And it should take an attorney between 10 to 20 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I forgot what your question was.
No, you're good. It was just the situation as far as when people are deciding on what type of attorney to go with based upon their expertise, things of that nature. Because like you said, sometimes some of these attorneys are not as equipped to deal with complicated situations when it comes to life.
Very, very ill-equipped. If they're not doing a bunch of these and they're not seeing different scenarios, especially in drafting your will, or if you have a really unique scenario, something complicated like we just talked about. If you have multiple siblings or multiple kids, you have stepchildren and a husband and maybe a common spouse sitting over there, you really need somebody to do it right, especially if it's involving your trust. You know, and the trust can be really intricate. Our trusts go into, here's who gets the house, here's how they get the house, here's who pays for taxes, insurance, lawn care, here's how we can sell the house by a majority. If there's an issue, then somebody makes the final decision. Here's where the cash goes. Natural grandkids can get tuition paid. You can go down to the next level. If it's a ton of money, you can't get any money till you're 30, till you're 40, till you're 50. We put it in detail so that whoever is the settler, whoever is the person putting the cash in, is really assured that that cash is going to go to work for the next generation. And then you said something about insurance. Our insurance policies, and I encourage everybody to get $1 million life insurance policy.
Minimum.
And that insurance policy, the beneficiary isn't individuals. When you die, it funds the trust.
Say that again. Say that again, Wayne. No individual. It needs to be put in the name of the trust. And
it goes to the trust.
Yes, and let's jump into trust, because that's the part that probably hits on with me. Can you explain to our listeners what a trust is?
A trust is a legal entity that you create. And you're going to create it with an EIN, you're going to create it with the state, and it's recognized as I'm going to say, a separate entity that holds your assets. You can put your house in trust. We do that via quick claim deed. We put LLCs in trust through the operating agreement. We put the insurance beneficiaries in trust. And then when you do your payable upon death on your bank accounts, you even name the trust as the beneficiary of that. So when you die, I talked about those automatic transfers. When you die, instead of that asset sitting out waiting for the court to say, yes, you know, you are hereby designated by state law to be over this asset of your father's, mother's, grandmother's, it already is there. And then in that trust, it says, here are the assets, and here is who controls those assets. Upon my death, I name my kids as the trustee. They can utilize these assets that I've put in trust for their health, welfare, and education until they die. And then once this trust is over, it can go to their grandkids by representation.
It's interesting you say a couple things, because I just learned recently, and by the way, Wayne would probably have all my information, all my stuff. I put my trust together years ago, right when I came out of college with me and my wife. I was educated through my great aunt, who was pretty savvy when it came to real estate. But for me, I kind of set it up that same way. I call it like a legacy trust. And we have a mutual friend who's probably one of my mentors, Mr. Vern Harris, and he has a trust, and we talked about it. And I have mine set up in multiple scenarios or ways similar to what Mr. Wayne Vaden just collaborated, me and him together. But the one thing I added to that, and we talked about this, guys, as far as the waterfall effect, in terms of what the Rockefellers and the Vanderbilts did. I think you might have saw me do something like that.
Yeah.
And I recently just made a point that all my kids, we added another $1.5 million to each one of my kids.
Nice.
On top of $100,000 cash value, right? Universal life policy. So when they pass away, all that money goes into the trust, and they could borrow against the trust throughout their lifetime. They just know they pay it back through the life insurance beneficiary, right? And it just goes back for me as far as building generational wealth. It's not about me, it's not about them, it's about their future of the generations to come.
Right. But I want you to, it goes back to your first question. Why don't we have wills? You know, I know my mom And this is what I'm going to encourage the audience to do,
Mm-hmm.
because I did this with my mom as recently as 10 years ago. She came in and said, "Hey, Wayne, I got a little bit of money for you if I pass away." I said, "Mom, how much?" "How much?" "Well, I've been paying on this policy for, 20 years. How much?" $10,000. Like, no. Call my insurance agent. "Hey, man, how much can I get on Mom?" Right? Of course, Mom and them are a little older.
Mm-hmm.
$200,000. Okay, I'm paying the policy. You don't pay anything no more. So I would encourage your audience, if you have older parents, talk to them about their insurance policy, because they'll say, "I got a little money," and it is literally a little money. And this is better than the lottery, because they will pass away.
Say that again, Wayne, please. No, before
away.
this, better than what?
It's better than the lottery.
Yes, and what? Yes, and can you? Well, I could elaborate on that, guys. No, and I'm being dead serious. And my mom, it's the same way. Grandparents, they would say, "Oh yeah, I got a life insurance policy," and when you look at it, it's $10,000.
Right.
It's 15. It's barely enough to bury them or even cremate this day and age, right? And if you're able to put them at a point where they're getting $1 million, $1.5 million, where they pass away, guess what they just did for your next generation, for your kids? They put you guys in an incredible situation moving forward. Only if you understand what to do with that money, right? Goes back to what we said earlier. It drives me crazy, Wayne, and you see this on Facebook when you got GoFundMe for
burial.
Yes, absolutely.
But that's a product of our history. Remember, those are the policies that were sold to the African American community. Mm-hmm. And I think they would pay 15 cents a month. And so that's what we were used to, because that's all we could get.
Yeah. Wow. Last point, getting back to the trust, is revocable versus
irrevocable.
Yes.
Irrevocable is I'm Arthur Brown, I'm setting up my trust, I'm in control of it during my lifetime, right? You get control of it. So when somebody says, "Is it revocable, irrevocable?" you said, "I control this trust. I can terminate this trust at any time."
Got it.
All right? Because it's mine. But that means creditors can come after you, right? Irrevocable, I'm Arthur Brown, I got all these assets, I'm throwing them into this trust, and Wayne controls it. I ain't got nothing to do with it. Now we know that's fiction.
Yes.
Super rich people will throw stuff into a trust. I'm gonna throw $1 billion over here, I don't have anything to do with it. Next day, "Hey man, transfer $100 million over here."
They do it.
Right? But that's the fiction. And now people can't come after it because it's irrevocable.
Got it.
So when they sue you, you're like, "Oh, I don't own anything. You got to go to my trustee. I can't do anything."
Got it. Wow.
That's the difference. And you can't revoke it.
So I know we got a little time left, very little time. I want you to tell us a story, like an incredible story, when it just like, if the listeners are just wanting to understand this, because we have a lot of terminology that's going out and we're talking about right now. I remember you telling me a story, and I'm just going to say a little bit about it, but you could jump in. I think you were telling me at one point it was a situation where it was maybe a pastor and his brother and the mother had passed away, and the one brother wasn't paying the policy like everybody thought he was, and when the mother passed away, blah, blah, blah. You remember that story you were telling me a little bit? Okay. It was a situation, I think you told me, that it was two individuals. Let's just say it was a pastor. Matter of fact, let's do this. I'm not going to even make something up. Maybe I heard it wrong. I want you to tell me something, because you deal with it each and every day.
The biggest problem I come across is quitclaim deeds.
Okay.
With joint tenancies.
Okay.
Oh, no. I'm going to start very basic.
In the story though, Wayne, I want a story.
It's a story.
Okay.
No, these are every day. This happened this week.
Okay.
You will have somebody come into the office and say, "Grandma and Grandpa died in the 80s, and they own this property. It was going to go to Mom, who died, which is going to go to me." How many people died? 3 people. Whose title is the property in? Grandma or Grandpa's? Are they in joint tenancy or tenancy in common? Typically tenancy in common.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the biggest issue, is check your title. You may be married to this man or to this woman, and you guys bought this house together, but are you holding that property in joint tenancy so that when either of you die, that property is automatically going to transfer to you? Check your title. Don't assume, especially if you're older.
And these are for people who currently are homeowners.
Homeowners.
Correct.
Some of them house paid for. 80 years old, we've been living here for 50 years. I know that this house is going to go to my wife. No, it's in tenancy in common.
Perfect. And then I know we talked a little bit about, before we went on air, reverse mortgages, because I'm huge on reverse mortgage. I think it's probably one of the best products that are out there for people that are 62 and older. What is the reason behind why you feel so confident in that particular product?
I love reverse mortgages because it allows our elderly to live on their own and free.
Yep.
So they'll be getting Social Security. There's nothing better than having your mother, father live in their own house, the one they worked for, and built equity in. I mean, now these houses are worth 60 grand. Their mortgage is $50,000. Why not?
Absolutely.
Now, the only other downfall is that you'll have kids say, no, I want that equity. No, Mom, you can't get a reverse mortgage because you may live for another 10 years and now you owe the reverse mortgage company $200,000 and that should have been mine. No. You worked, you saved, you got this equity, live off of it. When you die, whatever's left can go to your kids. If they're situated right, if they have an insurance policy,
they get this.
They can pay it off.
Exactly. Call to action. Call to action. And we've had an amazing conversation. And I always try to end with a call to action. Like from what we've talked about, and we hit on a lot of points, incredible points. And some of this stuff might be over the head of our listeners. Feel free to reach out to me or Wayne and we'll get Wayne's info. But the call to action, Wayne, out of everything we've talked about, what would be the call to action to listeners?
Do an inventory of your assets, number one. Hire a competent estate planning individual, attorney. Do not be cheap. I've had clients come into my office that had $2 million worth of real estate, and I said, it's going to cost you $3 grand. They said, oh, I thought it was going to cost me $150. No.
Exactly.
It's going to cost your kids 10 grand if you don't do it right now. Check your title. Know what your title says on it. If it needs to be corrected, have it corrected. Check all of your legal documents. You need a power of attorney, a medical power of attorney, a living will, a pour-over will, and a trust agreement. Know how your property is set up. Value your property. Everybody out there is probably saying, I don't know how to value my property. Just go online. Type in Zillow, type your address, and you will see the value of your property. Look at how much you owe in the mortgage. That is your equity
that you have.
If you can get a reverse mortgage, do it. It will alleviate you paying $1,000, $1,500 a month, and now you can breathe. Now you can live. Go out and get an insurance policy that's going to fund the next generation. It's a responsibility that we now try to fund the next generation. Our grandparents weren't able to do it. We can do that now.
Absolutely. How did they get a hold of you, Mr. Vaden?
Give me a call, City Park Law Group, 303-377-2933, and we will help you out. I have an amazing associate attorney, Sydney Merrill, Angela Hutton Hall, and my staff. We would love to help people do this.
Hey guys, I just want to say thanks again for listening in. Wayne, I can't even explain how this guy has had an impact not only on myself, my family, but most importantly, his community. He is probably one of the most humble individuals I've ever met in my life. So if Wayne is giving you his number, he ain't just giving you his number to say who won the basketball game last night. He's giving you his number because he wants to make sure you're taken care of. Thank you guys for listening to my podcast, Legacy Building. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Mr. Boy. Look at you, man. I knew you weren't going to be nervous like you told me.